it's beautiful, man. It's
okay. All right.
It's always beautiful.
All right.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Industry Chat tonight. We have got a special show this evening. One of the things we have talked about in our time of discussing additional training and such is the whole world of improv and comedy improv. And a lot of you have been reading that Mr. Page 6, Ron Ruth, good evening, Ron.
Good evening, John.
Has been doing some improv things. And Ron has brought along a improv teacher. Jamie, would that be right? Would you be considered a teacher or a guru in the improv world?
Oh my gosh, guru, I think that's too much for an art form where you just make it up. I don't know that guru is necessary, but maybe I'm just being amazingly humble. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what it is.
The amazing Jamie.
Amazingly humble Jamie.
But tonight we're going to talk about some improv, what it can do for shows, and we're going to kind of turn it over because Ron has been working in this area much more than I. So Ron, kind of introduce a little bit more about and kind of take over here a little bit and kind of walk us through how we can use improv to improve our performances.
Well, let's start with, I met Jamie a couple of months ago at a workshop here in Kansas City. He was teaching a musical improv workshop, and he was such a great instructor that actually, I was just telling him off camera a few moments ago that I've enrolled to take musical improv classes starting right after the 1st of August. But Jamie lives in Chicago, and he has a tremendous bio, so forgive me for looking away from the camera, but I want to make sure that I give you everything there is to know about the Jamie Campbell. Jamie's been a standout for years in Chicago's world-famous comedy scene. With the release of his debut album, Tell Me You're Proud of Me, on Mint 400 Records, which debuted #1 on the Amazon comedy charts, he is making waves nationally. He has been heralded as a bombastic genius, and by the producer of MTV2's Ridiculousness, calls Jamie one of the fastest and funniest comedians and actors he's ever worked with. Jamie also teaches comedy classes and workshops throughout the nation as a faculty member of ComedySportz Theater's Training Center and has taught festival workshops throughout the country. And he is also, he has his own podcast on hardamerica.com.
Hard in America.
Hardinamerica.com.
Because when you're chasing your dreams, it's hard in America.
Nice.
It is.
A lot of people think that sounds dirtier than it really means to be.
So I thought, first off, hi, Jamie. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
I'm
doing well.
Awesome. So great to see you again. I thought maybe we'd start out this evening with this conversation with conversations about, first off, what improv is and what improv isn't, to give the audience a little bit of an idea of what I think most people, when they think of improv, they think that the purpose of improv is to try to be funny, which is something I learned very early on in training is not necessarily true.
Yeah, it necessarily is not. I mean, we do improv every day of our life because you don't wake up with the script for today handed to you.
Right.
You react to what comes to you, and your reactions change based on the results that you've gotten by reacting certain ways earlier in your life. And you've learned that if you react one way to a situation, that you get better results. And so you become better at reacting to situations. Same thing when you're doing it on stage.
Right.
You learn that certain reactions get a better response, not only from the person that you're playing with, but also from the audience watching. And all improv is it's a humanist art form. Just by being a human being, you have what it takes to be an improviser.
Yeah, I think, and it's amazing how many people I've been in classes with that come from such a varying backgrounds. I mean, everything from one of my best friends who became a best friend while we've been taking improv classes as a nuclear engineer. I mean, it's from all facets of the industries out there, of business worlds, of people that come to improv as a means of escape in a way, because it's an opportunity to just kind of let yourself go and do whatever is gifted to you on stage. In other words, there is no right or wrong in improv.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've all done our best improv when we were tiny children, around the ages of 5 to 8. Those are the best improvisers on the planet. And something happens around adolescence where we start caring what people think of us. And so then when we start improvising as an adult, we start judging ourselves because we have this tiny voice in our head that's judging everything that we do, that's part of our own subconscious, that's going, that's not clever enough. You're not good enough.
Right.
And this voice is there in our regular life all the time. But there's something freeing about improv where if you're able to get rid of that internal critic, then you're able to play in the same committed and amazingly joyful way that you did when you were a child.
Right.
And to me, that's the adults that can lock into that joy that they had when they were kids are the most fun to watch. And it's not because they're funny. It's because they're just so committed and invested.
Right, exactly. Well, it's all about being spontaneous. Every part of improv is about being spontaneous. It's about being imaginative. It's about taking the unexpected and then doing something unexpected with it. And and that's the beauty of improv. I just got done reading well, I shouldn't say I got done reading. I'm partially through the book Truth and Comedy by Del Close and learning quite a bit about what improvisation really means to most improvisers who have far more experience than I do. And it basically, unlike life, the difference between real life and the difference between what we do as performers is that we're just taking improvisation onto a stage and performing without a script or planning and just trying to make it work.
Well, you talk about what improv is not. And a lot of people do get confused. If they're wanting to go to an improv show, at a lot of the theaters I work at, people will call in and ask for stand-up comedy. They'll assume that it's that, and it's not that. And there are different types of actual improv.
Right.
Because it's theater. It's a scene with a partner. And there is short form, which is the quick, fast games, things that you'll see like on Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Right.
Or Wild and Out. And then there's long form improv where you take a suggestion of a word or a phrase. Sometimes you don't even take a suggestion. And you basically improvise a one-act play just based on one word where all of the scenes and characters are interrelated. And then there are all the different gamuts of improv that is between those two things.
Right. Right. And it's something that I've really enjoyed. The one thing that beyond the rush of being able to get on stage and perform before an audience and having that collaborative effort between a number of different players on stage, one of the things I've learned quite a bit as far as my business is concerned, how improvisation has helped me as a business owner. And I think probably one of the first and fast rules of improv is saying yes and to whatever is given to you, but not just saying yes and, but adding to that conversation to keep the conversation moving forward.
Absolutely. I teach a lot of businesses. And I'll go and I've got a lot of Fortune 500 clients that I've taught. Just this last week, I taught a giant dental conference. And these were actually fundraisers that work in the dentistry industry. And we use yes and to talk about the ideas of coming up with a campaign to raise funds. Because a lot of times if we have a creative meeting, everybody brings in their own idea, kind of waiting for our chance to speak, right? We're not building off of the other person's ideas. It's cool, you've said your ideas, and a bunch of us have said that won't work because of this thing and that thing. And a lot of times instead of going, that won't work, we'll have a lot more success if we would go, maybe that won't, parts of that can work, and the parts that don't work, how can we change them to make them work? But a lot of times we go the route of shutting ideas down. But what I try to get these guys to start doing is to come, instead of us all having our ideas, we're going to start with this idea. And then you're going to say yes and build off of that idea.
Right.
Then the next person, you're going to build off of what that second person built off of. So now we're creating something together. And before we say no to anything, we're going to say yes to everything. We have to implement all of these ideas, a lot of which may be entirely impossible. But we're going to come up with some ideas down the line that we never would have thought of.
Sure.
Had we not said yes initially. If we shut things down right away, people aren't even going to bring in ideas because they're sick of getting shut down.
Right, and I actually think that people that say no kind of establish a hierarchy as well. It takes the the conversation where you have people trying to speak at different levels rather than people trying to speak across a straight line or as a group on the same level. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Because if I say no to your idea, that means my status is higher than yours because I have the authority to say no. And it may not just be a position. It may just be me when we're equals going, I'm so smart that I know your idea won't work. Technically, our positions are equal, but I've just shut you down. Therefore, I'm superior to you, which is a shame because instead of going, that won't work, you could go, what can we do to change that to make it work? Or what elements of that can we take, even though there are some that won't work? What are the ones that we can build off of? But if we're so quick to say no instead of yes, we never move forward. Instead, we just talk at each other.
Well, I think it also helps as far as keeping people from getting stale at what they do. I mean, it's so easy, particularly in my industry, in the DJ entertainment industry, to become so hard and fast at doing same things week after week after week after week.
It's easy to get into a routine.
Right,
oh, yeah.
right. And instead of being able to just sit back and say, okay, rather than me doing it this way again this week, what can I do to make it better? What can I do to make it different? What can I do to make it more entertaining, more exciting, more engaging? And I think that yes and even works. It works better, I think, in a way when you have two people. But you can actually sit and think to yourself, what am I moving forward, and what more can I do to continue to move forward, and actually kind of, maybe if nothing else, write down your ideas. If you're
absolutely, you can become your own scene partner.
Right, exactly. I think for me, it's a lot more fun if we have somebody to work off of, just because you can get as crazy as you want, and people give you different ideas that maybe you didn't think about. If you can spark another idea, and really, there's nothing wrong with. Even sitting down with somebody that may be outside of your industry to talk about different ideas, because they're going to be looking at it from an audience perspective rather than as an entertainer perspective. So I think there's value to that
absolutely
as well.
The crowd can be your scene partner kind of as an entire entity. For me, when I do stand-up, a lot of times I improvise as a stand-up, and it's based on what the crowd wants, what the crowd needs. I'm willing to throw out my game plan. Certainly you want to have a game plan, but I'm willing to throw it out if that's not what the party seems to want. If that's not what the crowd seems to want, I'm willing to change and go where they go. Because if I hold fast to my plan, they don't like that part of my plan, then they're not having fun. And then since they're not having fun, I'm also not having fun. And just being a stickler and not going, yes, I can adapt to what you guys need, ends up where nobody has a good time.
Absolutely.
Jamie, let me ask a question on that. As you're talking about, you initially have a plan when you're going into a stand-up routine, and you may go a different direction. Now, do you work it around for a little bit of time and then come back to your plan, or have you found yourself, just from your experience, that once you've gone off, your plan is that the direction may be something that you just never get back to in either your initial plan?
I sometimes go back to the initial plan. And speaking in stand-up terms, I have a set list. This is the planned jokes or the planned material that I'm going to talk about during my time on stage. But let's say I'm doing an 8 and a 10 o'clock show. And when I come out to do my headlining set, I can't really go over the allotted time because we have to get that audience out of the house and bring in the next show's audience. So that amount of time is a finite amount of time. But let's say something happens with this audience member who maybe blurts something out as I'm talking, or maybe I ask a question of an audience and I get this answer that is almost just a gift to all of us. And so it takes us off on a 15, 20-minute tangent of just talking back and forth. Now, I can go back. Usually what I'm having to do is in my head, I'm cutting all of the extra material I had planned to do. But then say we get done. It's like, oh, that's done. Cool. I can go back in and do my closer. But if the moment is right and other things are happening in a way that they're reacting and I'm talking about this thing that happened, I could force myself to end that and go into my closer, or, go into other material that I had planned. If the room's dying and it seems like we're done with that, a lot of times that's what I'll do. But if the need is there for us to keep talking, then I'll cut it all the way through and end the show like that. And we had a special show and a special moment that only exists for that audience in that moment of time.
Yeah.
So you want to have, it's like, to me, I equate it to hosting a party, right? You want to have a plan for the party, right? So you want to have a location, you want to have your spread of food and drinks, you want to have some activities planned. But when your guests get there, they may want to spend more time on one activity, or somebody may bring up something else that you hadn't even planned for.
Sure.
And everybody's really into that. If you decide, no, I had this itinerary planned, we're doing this, then your guests who were into this other thing that you're denying them are no longer having fun.
Right.
You as the host, because you're having to fight them to do what you had planned, you're not having fun. The party's not a success, even though your itinerary gets done. Same thing with stand-up. If they seem to be going in another direction, we all have a lot more fun if we go that way.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, if you're running a business and you see a need from the client that you didn't anticipate, but you're willing to stop and see what opportunities exist based on that, because you're in the moment, you're not so dead set in the game plan, then you're going to be able to take advantage of those opportunities as opposed to just let them slip by.
I like that. I like that, the being able to see the opportunities that can come up and that exist. I like that concept a lot.
Well, and it sounds an awful lot like what we do. What I do as a DJ. I mean, because you may go into a party with a set idea of what playlist may work for that evening, but nobody's responding to that, and you have to be able to adapt on the fly and make the changes to what people are going to respond to.
Absolutely.
You may have had one idea of how things were going to go, and the guests are telling you something totally different, and
right.
you have to go with them.
And you play that hidden gem that everybody then for. And then you know that that's a clue as to what else they're going to respond to. So you make some changes on the fly. Totally. I just read this book, and it was actually Max Frankel, who was a Kansas City improviser, loaned me, and it was called Tonight a DJ Saved My Life. And it's just about the history of the disc jockey from clubs in England on through radio in the 50s, through live parties, EDM music, just kind of an all-encompassing history of the DJ. And really the one thing that it focuses on is that connection to the crowd.
Right.
Which, I don't know, this made me think of that.
Yeah. That I've heard of that book. Have you read that, John?
No, I don't believe I have.
I'm going to have to go get that one.
Yeah. Who wrote
I recommend it. It reads kind of like just a history.
No.
It's really good.
And it's funny, Jamie, you were talking about no matter how bold the idea, that even if it seems silly, you can continue, you can build as many silly ideas as you want, and then cut it down to the ideas that are going to work. And that was talking about when you were speaking to the dental group not long ago. And I wanted to share another book that I don't know if the readers can. Whoops, Jamie, did we lose you? Jamie.
Yeah, we lost him.
I'm back.
Oh, he's back.
Hear me?
Hang on. Let's Ron, let's hold on, and we'll get his video back, and then you can do that introduction again.
There you are. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
My the place that I'm at right now, there's something weird with the Wi-Fi, and now and then I'm on a Mac, and sometimes it knocks a Mac offline for some reason.
You got to put another quarter in the machine, Jamie.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm out.
Tip the barista.
Yes.
I need to get that quarter on a string, or maybe just drop one in a jar like Chevy Chase did in Funny Farm to fool the operator.
All right. So John, I'm going to pick up at. I'm going to pick up with when he was talking to the dental group.
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. So you were talking earlier about how you had spoken to the dental group and how you were encouraging them to continually build on ideas of how to market. Even though those ideas may have seemed far-fetched, it didn't matter. You just kept building and building and building, and then the idea is to go back and then start eliminating ideas that...
Yes.
And it's funny because as you were talking about that, that's all strangely familiar also to a book I read, and I want to point this out to other people that are here. It's called Hatch, Brainstorming Secrets of a Theme Park Designer, and this is actually a former Imagineer of Disney, and that's exactly what he talks about, is about just building on ideas even to the point of absurd, and then going
Yes.
back and pulling out all the different things that you can pull out. And there's certain rules as far as brainstorming is concerned, as he writes about in his book about no one is allowed to block anyone. If you block someone, it costs you $1 or something. you come up with your own little ideas. But everybody has to add to the conversation, and every idea is like in his book, he's talking about every idea is put on a Post-it note and put up on a wall, so everybody in the room can see those ideas as they develop. So, I just wanted to share that with the rest of the audience in case.
I love that.
So. One of the things I wanted to talk about was another thing that I discovered about improv is that it really opens you up to being present in the moment. In other words, you kind of touched on it a few moments ago about how we're not really listening to what somebody is saying to us. See, I was listening to what you said, Jamie.
Right, you were. Good, you're doing it.
but that's probably the second most important thing about improv is actually listening to what other players are saying on stage. Would you not agree?
Yeah, and letting it be something you react to. The example I use a lot is somebody coming up to you and going, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?" And you tell them what you're doing this weekend, but they're not really interested in what you're doing this weekend. They only say that so that you will then ask them what they're doing this weekend, so that they can tell you. In an improv scene, I see a lot of early improvisers come out and they get a suggestion like, "Oh, okay, the suggestion was pineapple. I'm going to make all these jokes or say all these things about pineapple." And then somebody else comes in and they go, "I'm sorry, I'm going to have to let you go." And then they're not even responding to being fired from their job. They're still just yelling out bits and jokes about pineapple. It's like, man, you just lost your livelihood, your job. That should be an emotional reaction. But instead you're like, "Yeah, whatever. Anyway, you're really doling out punishment," or something dumb, and they're more concerned with their bits than they are with having an honest emotional reaction to what that other person said. And I feel like we lose so much because from then on, I don't care about the scene at all, because what should be important isn't important to them as a human. And that just comes from listening and reacting. And also what's amazing is when you let yourself react, you put the burden of being a writer, of being clever, you take that right off your shoulders.
Right.
You go, cool, all I have to do is listen to what you say and honestly react to it. I don't have to do anything but be a human. And when you do that, it's amazing how much the audience reacts.
And actually, it's not really any different than just having a conversation. But there's something about I know that through the training that I've had, and that I love side coaching. I love it when the instructor side coaches, and he'll stop me and say, "You just missed what that individual said. You didn't react to it. You just," and like you said, although I learned a long time ago, you don't tell the jokes, but somebody might say, it might be a female on stage is playing my wife, and she says, "I'm leaving you," and I'm talking about what our family vacation is going to be. No, you just missed. How did that affect you?
It's so weird because in real life, we would not miss that.
No.
Wait a second, you're leaving me? No, because in real life, we don't think about this clever direction that we're trying to take the scene. But we do that in improv, and we get caught up. And in some moments in our mind, we become the head writer of that scene. And we're real proud of how we're leading everyone else to the promised land. But we don't realize none of us get to be the head writer. We're all reacting off of each other. And when you deny that offer, you're not just denying that C part, you're denying yourself an amazing gift of suddenly this moment is an important pivotal moment in your character's life.
Right. And I think that for as a business owner, especially for someone like most of the people that are going to be watching this podcast, and for myself, one of the things I learned from that is that a lot of times in a sales meeting, I might be talking to a client and ask them questions, and while they're answering, I'm on to the next question. In my mind, I'm already moving on to the next thing, and I may miss something that was said to me that's going to be of great value to me. And
absolutely.
But over the past, I'm about a year and a half into improv training, so I would say maybe over the past year, I've gotten much better, much more adept at listening. And it's really been helpful because I've heard things that I probably wouldn't have heard before, and we're able to react to it and build on, again, adding yes and to whatever it was that they were saying to me, or being able to delve deeper into what they're saying so that I really understand what their wants, needs, expectations may be.
Now, you guys are talking.
Yeah, go ahead.
You guys you're talking about listening, but especially Ron, is what you're talking about in the world of like client meetings and such. Body language must be also reading their body language and such must really be part of the improv process. Also, I would guess when you're working with a partner, is that correct?
Yeah. Well, you're asked to.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
What body language can do. I'd say even more so than what words can tell you sometimes, because they're going to tell you if you're on the right track with them, or if they're upset. You're going to know it right away, even if they don't say, I'm upset or disappointed. Something's bothering me. If you're locked in to their body language, their tone of voice, all of that, you're going to know something's wrong. And if that is the case, you're going to have the chance to then go, it seems like you're not happy. Seems like something is wrong. It may be something totally different. It might not even be this. Something else could be going on. But I just want to check in with you because you're important to me, and I want to make sure that you're getting the best that I can give you. And if you're not happy, I need to know. And just something like that, even if they are happy, taking the time to do that, they're going to be so much happier.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the exercises, John, that we do in improv training, and I'm sure that Jamie is familiar with it, is that the instructor will have us wander around the room with just a different physicality than what we normally have. Just pick some characteristic of a body movement that you normally wouldn't use on your own. Maybe it's a limp, maybe you're dragging a leg, maybe you're hunched over, maybe you're lifted back. And the idea of that, after we've done that a couple of times, then you're asked to put a voice to that body movement. So that you're starting to get into character development. How do you think that character behaves? Mm-hmm. What do you think their MO is? And that's actually one of my favorite exercises, is trying, because character development for me is probably the hardest part of training for me, is that I find myself being me,
sure.
which isn't always the best. I try to be other, but it's funny because I can go on stage and I can start out as one character, and then a moment later, I'm back to being me again. And
I've done that. I did a character earlier this week that started off as some weird accent and then turned into French by the end of the scene. I think that happens for everybody, is those moments of stepping out. For me, what I love about that is once you figure out what it feels like to be in a character's shoes, everything else kind of takes care of itself. Because now you see the world through the lens of this character and their point of view on the world. And when you're reacting to other people, you don't have to think about what's clever or what's right, because there is no right. You just honestly have a reaction as you're looking through the lens. And it's almost like that internal editor has to leave because you're not you anymore. And it only knows how to judge you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't know what to do when it gets out of there. And you're free to play.
Yeah.
And that's the best part of improv, is just that freedom to play. But I think I don't want to leave this particular topic of listening until I want to make certain that the value of that. I just want to make sure that that's been emphasized enough, that especially as a business owner, you have to be able to not only listen to your clients, but be able to really listen to your employees. Because if you have employees, if you're a multi-op or you're in a situation where you have more than one employee, an employee may be coming to you with grievances and legitimate grievances, but if you're not listening to what they're saying, then you may be losing a good employee in the end, or you may not, or they may come to you with an idea that may actually be of value to you. And you have to be able to listen to what they're saying, and also maybe be able to even again plus that with a yes and then continuing that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I think with that, something that's important to remember is you hired them, right?
Right.
So you want the best out of them.
Yeah.
So listen, because, and here's a thing that I've also learned. I was talking to it about it at that dental conference. Is just a simple positivity of, I'm so excited that you're here working for me. I'm counting on you to be the best that you can be. And if there is a problem, I'm counting on you to bring it to me. And that employee's mentality then is going to be someone that wants to please you because you believe in them.
Right.
And so they're going to want to do as good as they can. And you can say the exact same thing, but with a negative connotation. Be like, look, you better not mess up because I'm taking a chance on you. You better not blow it. Now they're going, I can't stand this guy. You know what? Forget about him. I might just blow it. You know, it's the same thing. You're just putting a positive versus a negative spin on it.
Yeah.
And it completely can change their outlook.
Well, and if you're constantly saying no, what may happen is that when they walk through the door with an idea and you just immediately say no to that idea, at some point they're going to just decide to quit coming in and giving you ideas, which really might mean that you're going to miss out on the best idea ever because they just chose not to share it with you.
For sure.
And they'll go out and start their own business, put you out of business. You'll go bankrupt. Your wife will leave you. Your dog will run off.
That's getting too real, Ron.
All that could have been avoided just by going, cool, I'd love to hear your idea.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's better than spending Christmas in a cardboard box. What can I tell you?
Right?
So, out on the street in New York.
It's a cold time of year.
With the snow, yeah. Exactly.
You're getting very, very specific there, Ron.
Oh, okay. All right. Too specific am I getting?
It's going to be okay.
Well, and all of this kind of ties into kind of the third point I wanted to talk about today, which was adaptability and more importantly, collaboration, the collaborative spirit of being able to constantly, being able to, well, in a way, it's a lot of the yes and of being able to build on, but the adaptability part of it is being able to overcome whatever those challenges may be that's thrown at you, but not that you have to face them on your own, but maybe you can face them, have others help you through those challenges.
Yeah.
I kind of stuttered right through that question, I know, but I know what I'm talking about. Do you guys understand what I'm talking about?
Of course, we're adaptable and we can help you.
Try to clarify the
right.
more obscurely. So,
well, you know what I think? There's a philosophy, and not every improv school is this way, but a lot of improv philosophy goes along with the idea that if you take care of everybody else, don't worry about taking care of you. Worry about taking care of everybody else. Make sure that they've got what they need to succeed, and know that the other people on your team are going to take care of you. Mm-hmm. They're going to have that same mentality. And if I've got a team, say, of 5 of us, and I am worried about the other 4 people, I've got 4 other people worrying about me. That's way more worrying about helping me than just me if I'm just helping myself.
Yeah.
Right.
And so there's that team mentality, the idea that we've got to raise each other up. And by doing that, we end up all of us elevated as a team that I think really corresponds well to industry as well as improv.
For sure.
Well, I know in my profession where I'm doing a wedding, I mean, it's real easy for things to kind of go off track right away, or even to have a situation where, let's say the power goes out, which fortunately has never happened to me.
Oh my gosh!
Well, you would have to be able to find a way to entertain the guests without the music, that's for sure, and do it with the emergency lighting. You would have to be able to jump into that situation, make a decision that here's what I'm going to do, and then just go with that decision. You're not going to be left with a whole lot of wiggle room of being able to change course once you're into it. And I think that's part of what happens on stage in an improv performance is that once you're into a scene, you're committed to that scene.
Yeah, you can't bail.
Right. You stay with it, and hopefully with the other people that you have working with you, that if things start to falter for you a little bit, somebody else is going to pick you up and carry you through. And that's a good part of what adaptability and collaboration is all about.
Well, a lot of times in improv, if I have a scene partner and I know that they've got certain strengths, things that they're great at, then some of the things I'm going to try to choose to do are going to be things that play into their strengths. And I think that works anywhere you're at. You go, cool, what are the best parts about this area? And what are some things I can do that are going to make these people happier or allow these people to shine? I mean, if you're DJing a wedding and you find out that, you know, the wedding couple is great at salsa dancing, you may not play a ton of salsa music because that may not be the demographic of that wedding, but you're probably going to want to have a couple of those moments to make the bride and groom look amazing out there on the dance floor.
Well, that's a great deal of what, you're right. That's a great deal of what improv is about, is making your fellow players look as good as you can possibly make them look. And that's just kind of that's how it goes. You're always trying to make everybody else's ideas look and as good as they can possibly look on stage.
Yes.
And a great deal of that is through support. I just a brief story. I told you off camera that I had participated in a contest that you had judged a couple of months ago called the Gauntlet, and I was paired up with I was the only newbie out of 6 performers on stage that evening, and this is a no risk type contest. It's just fun. That's all it is, as you recall, Jamie, since you were there one other time.
Yeah. And
you're given certain challenges to do, and I was paired up with a very well trained and experienced improv actress. Her name was Brandy, and what was incredible to me was the support, and that's where I'm going with this conversation, was the support that she showed me. Even though I was a newbie, it would have been real easy for her to roll her eyes and go, oh great, I got stuck with the new old guy. And instead, what she did was she embraced what you were talking about. There are some improv performers that you understand what their limitations are. She understood my limitations, I guess. I never really thought about it until you just now said it. But she made the most of what I could do. And it was so supportive and always made me feel as though I was valued as a partner on stage with her. And I think that's a lesson that a lot of business owners can learn from other businesses they work with. And in the field of weddings, unfortunately, not everyone who works at a wedding reception, as an example, all works for the same company. We are 8 different, 9, 10, 11, 12 different companies. And I think one of the lessons here is that regardless of the other company, try to be as supportive of what they're doing as you want them to be of what you're. If you want that same support in return, you have to show support to them in the first place.
Absolutely.
And but I digress. I just enjoy that story. Brandy was so much fun, and I made it through the first round of challenges, so I feel pretty good about that.
Well, you know what? I do a lot of competitive improv shows, and the big important thing to remember is it's about giving a great show to the audience. Right. Because nobody walks out of there really caring who won. What they care about is whether or not they had a great time. Yeah. And if you're a jerk and you really care so much about that competition that you're cutthroat, you don't have to see the audience again next time you're improvising, but you probably have to see those other improvisers again. And so if in the name of winning that one night, you sacrifice that relationship and you're a jerk to them, that's the relationship that you've got to answer to, because the rest of that audience probably isn't going to know you. They're not getting your phone number or your business card, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, be like going on stage and just shooting everybody. You're dead. That's bad improv, John. So, Jamie, before we wrap this up, I thought I would ask, is there anything that I've not covered that you'd like to add to this conversation? Or John, do you have a question that you'd like to ask?
You know, I've really been impressed. We were talking about a lot of this stuff, and I've done a little bit of research, and we've discussed this before, Ron, a little bit about improv. But I think the part that's going to stand out from your guys' talk today is that concept that Jamie mentioned of people really looking out for and setting up the success of those around them. That's kind of a theory and something that I live by with a lot of the things I do. And then, Ron, when you added to that doing things like that will make the other people, give them that feeling of being valued. I really think that if people don't take anything else away from this, which there's a ton of great content. I mean, I've got notes here, gang. If you don't get anything more than that enough was worth the price of listening to Mr. Page 6 for the last 25 minutes.
Oh.
Right, well, and isn't that just in life, if you think about that, right? if you make other people feel valued, you say yes to them, and you listen to what they have to say. If I do that to you, you're going to like me, right?
For sure.
You're going to want to be around me because I'm making you feel important. And so if you want to get ahead in life, be that person other people want to be around. And those are just some very easy ways to do it. Just be a nice person and genuinely care about what other people have to say.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely, and that support system, I think, is something that, you know, and just as a throw, I'm going to throw this out as an example. I mean, and Jamie, I know that yours and my relationship is not like John's and mine. We've not known each other nearly as long, but in my industry, people think I'm old. And they come right out and say it, Jamie. That really ticks me
Mine
off.
too. I get a lot of 22-year-olds right out of college.
But the cool thing about the training I've been taking, most of the people that are in my classes are in their 20s, in their early 20s, and you know, and it's funny. Not once the support of working with 20-year-olds from 20-year. I mean, nobody has ever called me out. Nobody has ever said, you know, called me a name. I mean, and I've not done that. I mean, it's just we're all players.
Interesting.
Is what we are.
Yeah.
Wow.
And not players, John. Players.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. There's a
you all
difference between a player.
We're not going to be hood. You know, we're not going to the hood here. We're just.
Well, there's something about once you're an adult and you're an artist, you're all peers.
Right. Exactly. And one of the cool things about the training part of this, and actually it even carries over into performance, is that, and Jamie, I know you can attest to this, even if you're doing a warm-up exercise, what happens at the end of every warm-up exercise? Everybody gives each other a round of applause. That's
right, yeah, you clap.
You're taught support from the very first day of training, that we support each other and we applaud each other for our efforts. It doesn't matter what happened, you still support each other. And I would love to see more of that. John, I'm going to address this to you. I would love to see more of that type of thing in our industry, where that's something that's taught from the very beginning of someone coming into our industry, that regardless, we all support each other.
Yeah, I think when Jamie mentioned the idea that now that we're adults and we're going into the training and such, you know, we should act as adults. And then I'm thinking to myself, I guess that doesn't say much for the DJ industry.
Well, I'm just saying we're peers. Act as an adult. I act like a child all the time. I'm a perpetual 5-year-old boy. But that being said, just being nice, I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
Also, though, giving each other permission to be silly. Because if I'm too cool to be silly in this room, then that tells everybody else, if they're going to be silly, that I'm judging them. But if I go ahead and be giving everybody else permission to be silly and saying this is a judgment-free zone.
Well, Jamie, it's been wonderful. Before we wrap, I just want to kind of summarize. And actually, I borrowed this summary from a essay I read a little earlier today, and I think it pretty much addresses everything we talked about. But I think it kind of wraps us up in a nice big happy ending here. And basically, what it says in short, how the principles of improv help us in our businesses is, first, accepting a problem and saying yes to the unexpected circumstances, listening to what you are left to work with and reacting to those circumstances in the moment. And when a snap decision is made, must be made, committing to that decision and following through with it to the conclusion. And then most importantly, improv teaches us to be accepting in the moments when we do not know what is coming next, and to step into the void with confidence. And I think that that's probably the greatest lesson that I've picked up from improv training is that confidence.
I mean, improv is all about making good choices. And no matter what it is that you do on stage, your life is improvised.
Okay.
So just make some good choices.
Great. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Hang on to that thought, because I'm going to have you repeat it, because I'm going to go into our close now. So, first, Jamie, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be with us tonight. This has been a real honor for me. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time, and I know that you have quite a few things in the works, and you're going to be moving to LA, and I can't tell you how much it means for you to have just given us a few moments of your time to talk about everything you know about comedy and improv.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm sure you didn't tell us everything you know. You don't want to give away too much.
No, yeah.
Secrets. Yeah,
you got to have a few things in your back pocket.
Yeah.
The girl's got her secrets.
That's right.
And
it's been great talking with you. So thanks for asking me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. And John, where do we go from here, big guy?
Well, Jamie, can you give us another plug? Your podcast. Tell us a little bit about that and where people can find that.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I've got 2 podcasts actually. You can find them both on hardinamerica.com. Hard in America is one podcast, and that's where I just interview people that are chasing their dreams. Because to me, that's exciting, is those stories of people going after what they're passionate about, whether it be a chef, to open a restaurant, to open up their own consulting business, DJs. I've interviewed professional wrestlers, comedians, actors, just about you name it. Those are the kind of people that I'm interested in. The successes and the pitfalls and the tragedies, what you have to give up in order to really go after what you're passionate about. Because, when you're chasing your dreams, it's hard in America. So there's Hard in America. And the second one is called Bucket of Dumb. And that is an improvised stand-up series.
What was it again? A bucket of?
Bucket of Dumb. D-U-M-B.
Okay.
I call myself a professional idiot. And in my live touring stand-up shows, I have the audience write down topics on a sheet of into a bucket, and then midway through my set, I like to grab that bucket and just pull out every paper and just riff on whatever they've written down. And I record the audio and I put it out for a podcast. A lot of times it's great. Sometimes it's a train wreck, but I never edit it. I just put it all out there for the world to hear. And you can also find those episodes on hardinamerica.com.
That sounds great, Jamie. Ron, I want to thank you for introducing us to Jamie tonight.
Like I said, this has just been great, and I hope, Jamie, once you get settled in LA, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to talk again somewhere down the road.
Yeah.
And
please keep in touch.
And I hope that you'll. I'm going to be working on them getting you to stop in Kansas City as you're making the move.
Yes.
So I hope to see you again here, and hopefully by then I will have my singing down much better than I did during the workshop that you did not long ago.
Fingers crossed that I can make it out there, and hopefully it'll be when you're doing a show too, so that I can.
That would be awesome. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. So once again, thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you, John, for everything.
Yeah. Thank you much, guys. For those of you out there watching, if you are watching this on YouTube, please put your comments and such down in the comments area right below our video. If you're listening to us on iTunes today, thank you for listening. Please go to the iTunes area and do a rating of us, a rating of the video. We really appreciate, or the audio, I should say. We really appreciate that, because then that will help iTunes give us a little bit more love. Once again, gentlemen, thank you very much, and we'll put the links in the description so we can check that out, Jamie. Some really good stuff tonight.
Oh, thanks so much.
This is John Young with the Disc Jockey News, Disc Jockey News TV.
Hey, and Ron Ruth, page 6.
Ron Ruth, page 6.
Come on,
Jamie
John.
Campbell.
Show me some love.
Hard in America. Okay, come on, guys. All the links, we'll put them in the description below. We'll put a picture of Ron and his birthday. No, wait, not his birthday suit. But we'll put a picture of Ron. You can check Ron out every month in the Disc Jockey News. He is on page 6, and of course, discjockeynews.com. And yeah, you'll find the link to the e-editions. You can see his articles. Thank you much again, guys. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you next time. Good night.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, you will. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, you will. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, you will.